Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name is Jen. I am your hostess for the evening, and with me, as always, we have Brian.
Hello.
Hi?
Hi. Tentative guy's back again.
Is he?
He keeps hanging out.
I guess.
Maybe not.
Oh, man.
Oh, all I can think of is Question Man from, oh my gosh, I'm not going to remember the name of the show. It's a cartoon. Gravity Falls.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so completely obscure, reference there, but
Yeah.
anyways.
Best kinds.
Yeah.
So for the two people out there,
Exactly.
Yeah.
little Easter egg just for you.
Yes, yeah. We bros.
Huh? Okay.
So guys, how are you? How's
your
it
trip
been?
home? How's your trip home? How's your trip home?
I know, it's my turn. I
Well,
gotta go first.
actually-
No,
right?
not really. I mean, we all kind of flubbed it last week.
Yeah, I was
so,
going to
you know.
say really quick before we do that. Yeah, I was going to say we should, just mention just the way things worked out, we just ended up taking a week off. So I was
Stuff
going to,
happened.
yeah, I was going to do something else, but it just kind of fell through. So because of me, but, but yeah, so we just took a week off, but yeah, we're all back this week. So however you want to do
Sorry
it.
about that, folks.
Yep.
So, my trip at home was interesting. I ended up So last week, let me think where we're at now. My brother flew down, because as I mentioned on last episode, I was down in Florida. I was in for about 3 weeks, helping my mom take care of my stepdad. And then unfortunately he did pass away on the 12th. But on that Friday after he passed, my brother flew down. And so my brother, my mother, and I had a lovely week together. Kind of get caught up on just stuff, going through the house, going through a lot of his belongings and things, and kind of, Mom was really getting a lot of pleasure and enjoyment out of giving people pieces that Ty had collected through his journeys and stuff. And he has quite a collection, or had quite a collection of comic books and memorabilia stuff and records and cars, classic car collectibles and things. And so different people came over to the house, and my mom was gifting them pieces that meant something to Ty and would mean something to them because of that.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was fun. And then some different things like that. She's doing good. She's doing good. My family's very resilient. We don't tend to dwell detriment. At times we maybe should kind of sit in the emotion a little bit more than we do. We tend to gloss over things, but she's doing good. She's trying to keep herself very, very busy. So I know she's going to hit a wall at some point soon. Yeah. My brother left. I left on Saturday. My brother left on Friday. My aunt came almost immediately after I left in the afternoon, and then my aunt and uncle came Saturday night. So they're there now with her. Hasn't been alone yet.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think she's going to hit the wall. She's going to run out of things to clean and run out of things to organize, and she's going to get to that point where all of a sudden it's going to kind of hit her. It already does at certain moments, but yeah, so I came back Saturday, and it was interesting because of how full the flight was. It was absolutely packed. And wow. I kind of pulled a do you know who I am moment.
You didn't get all Karen on everyone, did you?
I kind of did. But here's the thing. Here's my justification.
Oh, boy, I got to remember that. Anytime you hear, here's the thing.
It's like, I'm going to try to justify my behavior. So I was bringing a bunch of different things home with me, unusual items to travel with because they were my stepdad's. So I had some classic cars, model cars in my bags, as well as some different candy and different things. When I went through security. So but I wasn't there when they announced, boarding. So by the time I got there, it was open boarding, so I just was able to walk right on. Well, everyone was in their seats. There was this lovely old man with a cane that was sitting in the window seat on the wrong side of the plane.
Oh, no.
So everyone else adjusted for him. I had paid for an aisle seat because I am a lady of girth. I'm urbanesque, shall we say. And so I kind of need the aisle seat to feel more comfortable, to have the space there, as well as I do get tendency to get claustrophobic. So
yeah,
sticking me in against the window like that is never a good choice for me. So I paid a little extra to get the aisle seat. Well, the only spot open was the window seat on the other aisle, which is where the little old man should be sitting. So I show up and they're like, oh, you can just sit here. So, of course, I looked at everybody. I'm like, I'm really sorry, but no, I really need the aisle seat. So they're like, oh, well, okay. So everyone got up. There were 5 different people that had to move.
Oh.
And this little old man with his cane, gets out,
Wow.
crawl over us and get over
What
to the
a
other side and get his original normal seat. So,
Oh, no.
I feel like complete, I just feel absolutely, completely, do you know who I am about the whole thing?
Right.
And so we all sit down and we all get comfortable again.
Well, really quick, it's like, but at the same time, it's like you did pay extra for that seat. So
Yeah,
if they're not going to give you the aisle seat, they definitely should give you a refund on the difference.
Well, and it was the people sitting on the plane.
Yeah,
that were saying it.
But
it wasn't actual.
I know
it's stewardesses.
Yeah, but it's just like that's my thing. It's like rather than you just eating the price difference. It's like you did pay for that, and there's a reason you paid for that. Somebody was basically getting a free upgrade because of how things worked, and that's you did pay for it. It's not really right, So
yeah, and so I told the 2 ladies sitting next to me, and they didn't really care, but I did tell them because I had to make myself feel better about the whole situation. So I, explained myself to them, and I'm claustrophobic. I have real issues being on the inside. I kind of need the aisle, and they're like, oh, okay, whatever.
Right.
I mean, in my mind, it was a much bigger deal than I think in anyone else's mind it was.
Right, probably, yeah.
But it was one of those moments that I was like, oh,
it's one of those ones where it bugged everyone while they were there, and then 10 minutes later, they were thinking about their own issues.
Right. Yeah, probably.
Gone.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So, that happened. And then I get home, and for those who don't know, I am I have a bourbon bunker because I drink it. There's a difference between bunkers and collections. Collections are what you have a bunch of bottles and you don't actually open them and drink them. A bunker is when you actually drink them.
Right.
So I've got a bourbon bunker. Michigan is a control state and Florida is not. So there's things that you can get in Florida alcohol wise that you can't get up here in Michigan. So long story short, I got a couple bottles of bourbon when I was down in Florida that I brought home with me. So I stuck them in my luggage and I wrapped them in my clothes and stuff to make sure they were nice and no problems there.
Right. Hidden.
So I get back. So I get back, and not only had I gone through security check and had both my carry-ons checked for suspicious things like model cars, I had my checked luggage checked as well, because there was a nice note from them saying, sorry if we messed up your luggage, the organization of your luggage, because we had to go through your luggage.
Right.
Well, everything was still there, so I can't really complain too much. Both my bottles of bourbon were still there, and a few other things that I had brought back with me. So, but it was the first time that I've ever had that experience of all 3 of my bags were checked. But I guess I must have looked extra suspicious that day.
Makes sense.
But so, and then, so things are getting back to the new norm. I'm still working from home. But I fear that I'm going to have trouble going back to work because I've been isolated so much that I fear it's becoming a new norm for me. And I have a feeling that when I start going back into the office, I'm going to have a lot more anxiety than before all of this happened.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, coronavirus aside, I feel like a lot of people are going to feel like they're walking into like a new job, essentially, like your first day kind of thing. So I think there is, like you were saying, I think there'll be a lot of anxiety that people are going to feel
because of that.
Exactly. And, and the anxiety of, would my work clothes still fit me? That's always going to be a question too. Now, actually, I thankfully, I had lost weight, but going down to Florida for 3 weeks did not help my cause. Kind of gained it all back, but I have another 3 weeks to kind of get down again. But so there's that. And now that the gyms are open, brings up a whole nother quandary, I guess you could call it. It's like, do I go because it's good for my health to work out? Do I not go because I'm technically in Michigan and Michigan's under stay at home and I'm really trying to follow the law? And my gym is in Ohio, so it's open. So all I have to do is go 10 minutes down the road and I can go to my gym. And it's kind of I don't know. Or am I just making excuses because I don't want to go to the gym?
Yep. No.
That's over there as well.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, too, a lot of times when people are looking at this kind of stuff, it's a if this or that. And this isn't necessarily, it can be both,
Yeah.
Like you really can look at this and go, should I be going because of, what's going on in the world? And also go, yeah, it also could be that I'm just trying to find an excuse that, to not go. So, it doesn't have to be, this is definitely one that can be in a gray area. It doesn't have to be a black or white situation.
Because it is an interesting situation because my husband is immune compromised. He's got pretty severe asthma.
Yeah.
And so he's being very, very cautious.
Yeah.
So there is that aspect to it. And with the gyms being just opened, I'm assuming that they're going to be busy because people have been.
The one that I went past yesterday the parking lot was full.
Yeah. So, and I do belong to a fairly large gym, but I have a feeling that it's going to be pretty packed. So I might try next week. I might give it a week and kind of see how things go and then maybe go next week and see how that goes. So that's on the agenda as well. But other than that, I mean, everything else is, like I said, I'm feeling pretty good. Things are getting back to the new norm. So everything, I'm hanging in there. I am having some pretty positive days, and so far things are good.
Well, good. Yeah.
All right. Who's next?
Well, I went to the gym.
Nice. How was it?
It was pretty awesome. It was not very full.
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah, and also some of it was my timing. I waited about a week after they opened back up just to see where they were at, and then I sent the GM who had been, obviously working with. I was like, okay, Derek, what do you want to do for us and, freeloaders?
Right.
And he's like, get in here. We need your, he's like, we're not even, because what they did is they created a sign up system for everything just to track how many people were coming in at a time. And so they could monitor all that. And he said, we haven't even hit half full in the gym yet, even on our busiest days.
Wow.
So I was like, okay. And so I got, for the 3-day weekend, I got Thursday, Friday, Saturday off. So I went in relatively early on Thursday morning, which ended up being a good thing because, there are less people there. I am considerate of the fact that I'm in there as an employee. So I don't want to be taking up space or being any sort of a hindrance to any, a paying member, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I went in earlier, but it was good. It helped that the CDC released that they finally started to release the information that they're finding less and less surface transmissions and those kind of things, which, there was a lot of information out there about how much virus was being found on surfaces, but nobody knew how much was transferring. And so that helped a little bit, plus knowing everything that was in there. And then we have one of our owners was in there, and he came over to talk to me, and I said, after all the work I did, what would it say if I didn't come in here?
Right.
And Tom had a good laugh at that. Because I honestly I had stopped going a month before we had a lockdown. The minute we started hearing about this, just because of where we lived, and it was the right move to do.
Yeah.
I found out today people that I know that were sick in February that have now tested positive for antibodies, and they were regulars at our health club. So it was going around when I stopped going to the health club, and it was based on I didn't have any information.
Right.
Now I've got. But I have to say, that they're doing a great job. It's funny because they have arrows everywhere because they're trying to direct people in a circular, right? And they just, close down every other machine, and there's tons of wipes and tons of everything and tons of hand sanitizers. We got great stuff, and they've, I even helped write up some of the little flyers that they've got on their screens that go by that talk about what they're doing, and it was nice to be in there to do that, and I took it easy. I didn't go too nutty, and 45 minutes, 50 minutes, boom, walked out, and I didn't get a chance the rest of the weekend, but I went in days ago, and it was again early in the that was my thing is, see, I usually go after work, and I'm like, I need to go early in the morning, it's just better. And so I got up early. I'm going to go hopefully again tomorrow early in the morning too, and I went in before work a couple days ago, and it was great, and it ended up being perfect.
Nice.
I got in a little bit harder. I'm a little sore today, but it had been months.
Yeah.
So it felt good. And things are different here where I live because we're still technically a hot spot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different. There's a different level. I went for the first time out of town on Friday, and the first gas station I went into scared the bejeebus out of me. It was like, this is insane. But if they don't have that experience like we have, we literally know people who died. Everyone that's gotten sick. You've heard what it was like. It's going to be a different reaction. Sharon went down to Boise. Same thing. She was like, I cannot believe this. But again, Boise's not a hot spot. We are.
Yeah.
So I've tried to keep that in perspective. And I just, our valley's done. And I hope that we get to be part of a large test or something like that, because I think it could be good overall for other parts of the country that are in a similar situation as we are. And the bummer part is because we are a resort community, tourism our unemployment is ridiculous up here compared to other counties in the state.
Yeah.
But it was, and then last week I had the weirdest thing with the disinfecting protocols we came up with. My boss just really had a hard time with me doing the work, and not that it was a big deal, but it was the hill he decided to die on.
Huh.
And it was tough. I did not understand it. I could not understand. He was legitimately angry.
Huh.
He was angry, and it was nothing. I mean, it's a once a month treatment, and it took me an hour and a half. And it was a lot faster than it's a registered pesticide in its liquid form. It literally has the tape around the cap. It's hazardous. Once it's dry, it's completely non-toxic.
Okay. Right.
It's not something I just want to hand over to the housekeepers.
That makes sense.
Right. And it was an absolute disconnect about it, and it was his thing, and it was frustrating because I've really felt useful at work. I've really felt useful, and I've enjoyed being at work. And it was just a bummer, and it didn't get to me. The one thing that I did take from it is he evidently lost his mind afterwards and started banging stuff around and all this other stuff, and I found out about it later. But he didn't do it in front of me, and I could tell he was very, very frustrated with it. Went right to the GM. GM didn't back him at all, backed me immediately. And I think that, I was like, well, he either considers me a threat or he actually has some respect for me. Either way, I have to be grateful that, it makes me sad that he bullies other people.
Yeah.
But I have to be grateful that I can at least walk out of that room and no bad things happened.
Mm-hmm.
I feel sad for that drawer. But that was,
right.
yeah, that was my weird thing. And then Friday I got my second shingles vaccine, and oh boy, did I have a fever that night. Oh, it was gnarly. Like, it hit so hard, but it was gone. It was gone with, I didn't get to bed till really late, and within a couple hours, I woke up and I'm like, oh, I'm fine now. And I've been fine ever since. But I had the full on cold chills, the whole deal. Like
miserable.
I hadn't felt like that in a while.
Wow.
It's like that part of the flu, but everything else is normal,
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
and it was an interesting thing to do it. I considered not doing it, mainly because, like, when I was talking to the nurse before she gave me the shot, she's like, I have to do my second shot. And she's like, I can't, because I will have symptoms and I will not be able to come to work.
Right. Yeah.
And and I'm like, all right, well, I don't have those issues. So that's why I'm doing this. That's why I didn't blow it off. And now I'm done. But boy, that a shocker. It was a really, it's a weird feeling at work to feel like I'm doing what I need to be doing, but to have somebody just so angry about something.
Yeah.
But my win for the week is didn't get to me.
Good.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
His issue, not mine.
It's right.
Yep.
Until he brings it to your face, then that becomes your issue. Until then, nah.
And it was,
You can have a fit.
Yep. And I handled it reasonably. I never raised my voice. I was very polite about it. I had reasons for it. And even the next day when he brought it up again, I'm like, okay, well, let me explain what I did, and it felt good. It felt like it's the part of this thing for me with sobriety and 12-step programs. There's this thing in the reading where it talks about intuitively knowing how to handle situations that used to baffle me. Or it uses us, but that's part of it's a promise. It's one of the promises. And when that stuff works, I go, this is why I do this. This is why I do this. I want to intuitively handle things. I want them to just, like, I don't need to lose my stuff. I don't need to. And that way, when something does baffle me, like we talked before the show where I had a text exchange that was a little weird. When something does baffle me, then I know that there's something there.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, it doesn't. It's like everything just, I handled it right. I didn't feel bad afterwards, and I don't feel guilty about it. And I went on with my day, and I didn't let it bother me. And the next day, when I went to the gym, I swung by and I said, hey, have a great weekend. Nothing of that changed me, and it felt so good. And it's just a polar opposite of who I used to be.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's
awesome.
working. Still doing it. Not giving it up.
Growth is great.
Yeah. And I think really important you got to have the wins to remind you that it's still worth it. It's still worth it. It's still worth it, because we have so many frustrations and frustrating times. And it's been a couple of good weeks. So gotta talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Like you said, you got to celebrate, when you
got to celebrate the wins.
Yeah. Things have been, just pretty much the same for me. I mean, nothing really changes with people going back to work and all this kind of stuff. I talked a little in salty language. I got out of the house a little bit with my brother, and we just kind of drove around. We didn't really go do a whole lot of anything. We went to like a grocery store or whatever, and we got something to eat, but we sat in the car and ate it. And, but it was still so nice to just have that little sliver of, hey, this was something we did before this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you know, when we went into the store, we're both wearing masks, and you know, so there's differences to it, but it's still the ness of it, you know, felt a little different. So that was nice, and I got to see how other people were going to behave out in public, you know, as things in Ohio have started to open back up again a little bit. So that, you know, and I wanted to see how people behave because, you know, we're in a point where I'm more reactionary when I'm in public now than I was before. You know, before, like, if you're at the grocery store and there was something you wanted, I would just kind of, you know, not like step in front of somebody, but excuse me, and I'd reach across them and grab a bag of chips or something. Now I'm very much like, well, I'm just going to kind of wait a little more instead because I don't want to crowd, you know, I want to keep distance between us and stuff. So, you know, I find myself a little more reactionary than I was before, but not in a bad way or anything. It's not, you know, I'm not like passive. Like, I'm not going to stand there for an hour if somebody can't make up their mind. You know, I'll eventually be like, hey, can I get in here real quick? But that's about it. I haven't really gone and done a whole lot. You know, I couldn't sleep last night the night before, I'm sorry. So I was just like, you know what? I have all the phone calls to make again because I've been putting off phone calls. Partially because I didn't want to make them, but also because, like, you know, my one debit card, it cracked on top right above the magnetic strip, so it's kind of peeled the magnetic strip a little bit, so I needed a replacement. But when I called the number on the card, every time I called, they're like, oh, you know, your wait will be over an hour. And it's like, no, it won't. And I just hung right up, you know, because, like, this is stupid. But then I put off, all I had to do was call my local bank and be like, hey, here's what's going on, and take care of it, you know? And it was one of those times where it's like, you know, we've talked on here before. It's like, I knew it was going to be literally a 2-minute phone call.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there'd be more time with me verifying who I am than there would be for them to actually fix the problem, right? And that's what it was. You know, I called, the woman was super nice, you know, got everything taken care of, and it was over. I called and made some doctor's appointments and was like, okay, you know, and, you know, kind of felt good, even though it was really minor stuff. But, you know, just whenever you finally get those phone calls off of you that you've been putting off, you know, it's like, all right, you know, and then, you know, today, Jim that lives here, his doctor, they had to call on my phone because she wanted to do the video, you know, the telemed. So, you know, and he doesn't have a smartphone, so he, you know, they called on mine. So I had to be up at like 8 this morning for that. So, you know, I barely was sleeping last night because we had a weather system crew here last night, and oh my goodness, did it give me a headache. I mean, it crushed me. It hurt so bad I couldn't fall asleep, basically. Even closing my eyes hurt. So it was brutal. So I took one of my pills for it, and it helped a little bit. But honestly, it took the intensity from like whatever it was. You know, like for sake of argument, if it was a 10, it took the intensity to like 7.5. You know, so it still hurt like crazy, but it was like, well, maybe I can go to sleep now, you know? No, absolutely could not. I barely dozed a little bit, and then next thing you know, my phone's going off because it's 8 o'clock, and I'm like, don't. And I'm like,
it comes quick.
Yeah, well, then I'm like, well, you know, no big deal, you know, this shouldn't take very long, because you know how it is, a doctor's appointment takes, you know, you wait longer than you actually go through the appointment, so that got over with. And then I was like, you know what? I needed to have blood work done today. And you have to schedule it. I had it scheduled for 3. And I'm like, you know what? It's like I'm already up. I might as well I'm going to call and see if they have any earlier appointments. And sure enough, they did for like 45 minutes after. It was like 9:30, I think, by the time we were all done. Or when they scheduled me. So I'm like, awesome. I'm just going to go do this because I'm thinking I'll do this and I can come home and I'm going to crash, you know? And yeah, after that, I was like, oh, wait, I have to go pick up prescriptions. and my mom had a prescription somewhere to go get, and I was like, and then it's like, well, now I'm hungry because I had to fast for my blood work. So I was hungry, and it's like, well, now I need to eat. And it's like, well, now I don't want to go lay down right away. So, 3:30 rolls around, and I'm finally like, I got to go lay down for a while. And, that's why I texted you guys around that time. It was like, so I would know basically when to set the alarm on my phone to get back up.
Yeah, are we going? Well, that was weird when I saw the text messages. I'm like, well, that's an early time.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it was like, if we're not, I'm just sleeping until I wake up.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so anyway, but so I'm still a little brain dead from that. Like I can still feel like I know I didn't get a full 8 hours of sleep. I got about 3.5 hours or 4 hours of sleep. So I'll probably crash pretty hard tonight, which isn't all bad. I certainly need it, but I hate doing that, but it's easier for me to just push a little bit and stay up most of the time than it is for me to sleep for like 1 or 2 hours and then try to function for part of a day. I've always been that way, and it's harder as I get older. It's harder and harder for that to work as well. Like, it's funny. The two things that probably make me feel older than anything are the fact that I can't always stay up and just stay up. Like I used to be able to stay up till about 3 o'clock, and then I was like, I have to go to bed now. Because my body would just literally start shutting down. Like I'm going to fall asleep wherever I am if I don't.
It's like, we're done now.
Now getting to 3 o'clock's a little harder than it was. And, and then of course, if I were to, drink to hangover levels, you don't just spring up out of bed the next day and like, whatever, whatever. It's like, a couple days later and you're still feeling it. And it's like, this is terrible. So, yeah. But, whatever. I look at it and it's like, well, I got quite a bit of stuff done, yesterday and today that needed to get done. So that's my win for the week, is that within doing nothing, I was able to still get quite a bit done. And, I feel better because I got to cross, even though it really wasn't much, I got to cross like 5-6 things off my to-do list, basically,
Huge.
So it feels huge,
That's
even
awesome.
even though if you were to measure those things, you're like, dude, it's like you made some phone calls and, it's like, hey,
Doesn't matter.
yeah,
Those are some of the biggest ones.
I know, right? Yeah. So that's why I said I definitely take it, but that's been about it for me. I haven't really done much else. So, and like I said, I can feel my body already is kind of like, hey, you should go to bed. It'd be great right now. Sleep. But but I need to eat again because I'm hungry, and so that's gonna push the time back a little bit again. So, but that's all right. Like I said, once I finally lay down, I'll probably be out. So.
True that.
Yeah.
Well, who has our article this weekend? Evening.
On this very bright white page. Oh,
I can tell.
Wow.
It's shiny.
Isn't that amazing? Like, everyone's will be like, okay, I got to make sure my page is there. Click. Ow.
Yeah.
That's pretty bright.
I'm looking at the Skype window and it's seeing Henno, and I'm like, am I looking at myself? Like,
yeah.
I know. So blaringly white.
Yeah.
The reflection shows up.
Yeah.
This is from Psychology Today, and it is the top 15 myths about apologies. And it's actually subtitled Common Misconceptions That Can Prevent People from Repairing Relationships, which is the most important part of this. Is we shouldn't have myths get in the way of us being able to repair a relationship. So this is by Molly Howes, PhD. And she says, an apology can be an intimate exchange or an international diplomatic statement, which is true. Whatever the scale, a sincere and thorough amends process is enormously powerful. This blog will explore apologizing from many angles, including the reasons most of us find it challenging to do it at all, much less do it well. The remarkable healing effects of an effective apology, examples of good and bad ones, and straightforward steps you can follow to make things right after they've gone wrong. Some of the biggest roadblocks to making a good apology are widespread myths and the common misconceptions listed below. Do you recognize your own assumptions or the reasons you tell yourself not to apologize? So, number one, an apology is a sign of weakness. Yeah, there might be some people in the news a lot like that might feel that way.
Well, and I will say one thing about apology, it does leave you vulnerable.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't necessarily call it weakness, but there's definitely an element of vulnerability to it.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of people though that do feel that apologies are weaknesses, or showing weakness because you're, admitting that you were wrong, rather than just say whatever you want and keep moving forward.
And you just made the point. On the contrary, a sincere and thorough apology can be very hard to make. It requires considerable courage. And I think that's the thing. If you can make that apology, you are showing courage. Mm-hmm. 2, saying I'm sorry means that you accept blame for the problem. If you weren't at fault, you shouldn't apologize. This is a real common one.
Yeah.
Blame and fault are important notions for a legal proceeding, but they aren't helpful for making good relationships. You can decide to apologize simply because you care about the impact on another person. And I like that angle. It goes back to that idea of forgiveness aren't we all for giving? And the whole thing, it's not letting someone off the hook, it's realizing there is no hook. And that's the same thing. Is that just because you apologize for something doesn't mean that you're saying it was 100% me. And if the other person takes it that way, that's just the way it is. Mm. But I personally like to think of it as like it can just be because you care about the impact on another person. I like that. So number 3, if you didn't intend to harm someone, they can't be hurt.
False.
Yeah. People are often hurt by mistake, sometimes without the awareness of the person who caused the hurt. Your intention towards someone and your impact on them are not a complete match. Like that. Whether you meant it or not, it's your responsibility to address your impact. And that really goes into a lot of the stuff that I've learned in 12-step programs. And it's about owning your part in things. Mm-hmm. If you had a part in it, even if you weren't if you were there, and if you could have changed things, then you had a part in it. Sometimes we couldn't change anything. And then, maybe it's not our part. But for the most part, whether we wanted to harm someone or not, if they felt that way, it's worth taking a look at it. Number 4, you're a nice person, so you couldn't have done anything that hurt someone.
Oh, so untrue.
It's hard to face the news that an impact you've had on another person contradicts the way you think of yourself. I love that. But thoughtful people do still hurt others' feelings. Regardless of what kind of person you are, it behooves you to try to heal the harm.
It's one of those things that there's a difference between being taken advantage of and letting someone take advantage of you. We've talked about it before on the show, and so it's finding that right balance there.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of times where I thought myself to be rather humorous and funny, and I was actually being cynical and mean. And
true.
And whether that person is maybe a little too sensitive or not is irrelevant. And that's one of my big amends that I needed to make, was to someone that I said something really hurtful to. I didn't mean it that way, but they were hurt by it. And I needed to make some changes with that. 5, your partner knows you wouldn't hurt them on purpose, so there's no need to say anything about it. And that's an interesting one. Your partner may trust your motives, but still be hurt and in need of healing. And I think that's the good point. It's like, oh, well, they know me. I don't need to say anything about this.
I think this expands past partner too, to
anybody,
family, friends, coworkers, even though they may know you and they may go, well, that's not like them, that's still, again, I always love the apologies thing of, take a plate, throw it on the ground, apologize to it. did the plate go back together?
Mhm.
You know, it's like, even if you didn't intend to do these things, sometimes, you know, you drop a plate rather than throw it, you know, kind of a situation. But it's one of those where if somebody's hurt, then, you know, it can go a long way to at least they know your motive or your intention to it was not to hurt them. That can go a long way.
Yeah,
know?
and you're willing to communicate about it. And I think that's the most important thing, that you're not making an assumption.
Right.
And even if they say, "Oh, don't worry about it, it's no big deal," you did communication. That's the important thing about relationships.
Yeah.
And speaking of relationships, the next one is good relationships don't need apologies. Love means never having to say you're sorry. Whew. That old movie tagline led us astray.
Yeah.
Yes, it has.
Not if you want love to last for any length of time.
That's it. In my experience, it's the strongest relationships that deserve and can make the best use of the shared learning a good apology produces. In weaker relationships, a thorough repair of a breach can set the pair on a better course going forward. Great points.
Mm-hmm.
To apologize well, all you have to do is say the words, "I'm sorry."
So important.
Well, despite the fact that many of us were taught as children that the way to resolve a problem is to say those two words, they're not magic, and they usually aren't sufficient.
Right. Well,
And
I was going
the
to
last
say,
line is
yeah.
the best. Is they may not even show up in an effective apology.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That one right there is my dishes example.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's why, you know, when people are like, "Well, I apologize, but, you know, blah blah blah," and it's like, yeah, but I'm still hurt. Like, okay, I get it. I've accepted your apology, but you don't just snap your fingers and go, "Oh, everything's great again." You know, like that isn't. That's not how feelings work.
That's why I like the concept of amends, where is to change,
Yeah.
not to say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is to go in and express yourself, and then express that your desire to actually change, and if that person is willing to, you know, accept it, which is sometimes the word "I'm sorry" doesn't even need to be said.
Yeah.
Let's see. Taking responsibility for harmful mistakes will get you sued. Medical organizations have found that making a sincere apology for harm caused to a patient may reduce the rate of malpractice suits. Perhaps more importantly, patients and families, as well as medical personnel, are more satisfied when the medical institution assumes responsibility for an adverse outcome. And that's something we see often a lot in the news, or on, you know, especially with politics, is that, oh, well, if I apologize for this, then I'm admitting guilt, and everything's going to come after it, when over and over and over again, trying to pretend something didn't happen, or change the outcome, or lie or cover it up, generally it doesn't get better.
No, because it makes you appear cold and uncaring.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't care that a person was hurt or something, or wronged, you know?
Yeah. It always comes around to, you know, we don't even need movies and TV for this. Real life, it happens all the time. If they'd have just came right out with it right off the bat, it would have gone a long way.
Yeah.
So the next one is, the purpose of an apology is to get the other person to forgive you. An apology is not a demand for forgiveness. It's a request for a conversation, a chance for you to take responsibility. I like that one a lot. That's very powerful. I like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It sure gives you a different, if going into an apology, I bet I myself would have a different perspective on how I'm going into it if I think about this first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
10, feeling guilty about mistakes is pointless. What I call good guilt can be productive and healthy. It can drive you to fix something that needs fixing. See, that's the thing, is that, yeah, there is good guilt. It didn't feel right. That's why I made amends to someone that I said something horrible to 20 years ago.
Right. Well, sometimes too, you know, like that'll lead us to, you know, sometimes, like, you know how it is, like you'll say something, then later on you're kind of, you know, mulling it over, and you're like, that might have come across blah, blah, blah. And then you apologize. Yep. And like you said earlier, you know, the person might go, "Oh, don't worry about it. I didn't even think about it." It's like, well, that, again, in the long run, you know, that can definitely it at least shows that you think about what you've said to people. You're not just firing off and, you know, like, hey, I say what I say, and
Oh, that drives me nuts.
like it or leave it. Yeah.
Our next item is making an apology doesn't help you. It benefits only the person who's been hurt. This is interesting. Making a wrong right takes a spiritual weight off your shoulders. You feel better when you face your mistakes responsibly. Your relationship benefits too, which also helps you. And this is, for me, is the idea of making amends even when the other person isn't there is about giving myself a break. It's by relieving myself of this burden. And so it does help us. Even if the person isn't there, sometimes we need to do it anyway. If we can't get a hold of the person because of, they may have passed away or they're just not part of your life any longer. Sometimes we need to take that spiritual weight off of our shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Next is you've been hurt too, so you don't have to be the one to apologize. Well, in ongoing relationships, it's often the case that both people have felt hurt. You may long for an apology yourself, but you may have a better chance of getting one if you begin by first considering what you could apologize for yourself. And that was the one that took me a long time to get okay with, is making an apology and then the other person said nothing.
Yeah.
And then it was my therapist that helped me through with that one, which is you did your part. They can do whatever the heck they want with their lives, and it's up to you whether you care to be around that person again.
Right. Yep.
But they don't have to say anything. I was like, I felt like I was owed something.
Yep. That's what it is too, is you apologize, and if the other person doesn't say anything, it becomes like on TV shows or whatever, you just, it becomes well, don't you have something to say to me?
Yeah.
No, thank you.
They don't.
Yeah.
And then we make our decisions.
Yep.
That's how it should be.
Yep.
Let sleeping dogs lie. Raising difficult subjects just makes everyone uncomfortable. Old hurts often don't really go away. Many show up later or lead to chronic resentment. It takes courage to face any initial discomfort, but a sincere approach can lead to relief and a closer relationship. And this is a little bit tough. It's for myself as far as sobriety goes. One of the things for making amends, one of the conditions is that it won't create any new hurt. And if something would be hurtful, and this is how the people that developed the concept of the 12 steps had one thing in mind, and I think it all comes down to sex.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes there are certain situations. You need to go out there and you need to clear house, but some things you don't need to clear house on. And they didn't say it explicitly, but it's really in between the lines everywhere that if there was some, certain infidelities, maybe going in and making amends for this is going to cause more harm.
Okay.
And so that's why there was always this thing. It's like, make amends wherever possible, except where it would do harm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because we're doing it in that case, it's like I'm trying to make amends to clear that spiritual weight off my shoulders. But if in the process I'm adding weight to somebody else's shoulders, then that's not fair.
Right.
If the harm happened before you were born, you don't owe anyone anything for it. Well, this is an interesting one. Historical harms are clearly not the fault of anyone alive today. However, sometimes a person or a group of people have benefited and continue to benefit from inequities that began in the past. It is a moral obligation to take responsibility for changing unfairness that rewards you. Wow, went political there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. All right, let's hit the last one. You can't change the past, so there's no reason to revisit it. Well, of course, the past can't be altered, but you can change the future, which is a remarkably powerful option. And that it comes back to kind of what I just said is, if it's not going to cause harm, it might be an opportunity to make a relationship better. But I think it's worth definitely looking at if somebody can be hurt, and if motive again. Why am I doing this? Is it just for me, or is it to actually make a relationship better?
Yeah. Right.
So there you have it. If you want to look this up yourself, we will have a link in the show notes.
Yep.
Awesome.
And that's our show.
That's awesome. I mean, really great
That's all,
points.
folks.
Yeah.
Well, guys, are we good for the night?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Think so.
All right. Well, with that, everybody, thank you for joining us. And if you'd like to continue the conversation, you know what to do. You can reach us at the crazylifepodcast.outlook. Well, hold on. I'll back that up again.
Yep.
crazylifepodcast.weebly.com is our website. The Crazy Life Podcast at outlook.com is our email address. You can reach me on Twitter at WhitskeyDitz, WHITSKEYDITZ. If you'd like to reach me, you can also hear more from me. I'm on another podcast, Shake the Sheets, with my co-host Nate. It's a pop culture talk podcast. So if you'd like to check us out, you can check us out at shakethesheets.com. And Henno, how do they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno, or you can look up L Hummingbird. Find me on Facebook, Henno Heiter, also Facebook Messenger, and other ways of getting a hold of me. I do not hide my phone numbers out there because, well, you know, it used to be in a phone book, so what difference does it make? I also do another podcast called the Moving the Needle podcast, where we talk primarily about movies, sometimes about television, and sometimes about music. And you can find us on all of your podcatchers, Moving the Podcast. And our latest episode was Con Air versus The Rock. Real highbrow stuff there.
Sounds like a good one.
Yeah, so if you're if you need a little Nick Cage in your life, come check us out.
Right? Yeah.
All right. And you, Brian, how can they reach you?
You can find this show on Twitter at the Crazy Life Pod, also where I post when new episodes go up. You can find me at Stunami. You can find my other podcast at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com, where we talk about just pop culture stuff or just kind of weird stories, just whatever kind of comes across our field of vision, I guess. And that show's not safe for work, so please be careful, you know, who's around when you're listening. You can find this show, our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Plazy. Wow, I'm killing it now. Crazy Life Podcast. Man. We're part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please go check out the other shows on that network. And, yeah. So, as always, even though we didn't really talk about, depression or anything along those lines as much today, but if you need help, please reach out, for help. There's plenty of people out there willing to help you, even with what's going on. You know, there's a lot of telemed help out there and support groups and different stuff. So please reach out if you're, feeling as though you need help. And that's not just for people who, have depression or whatever. It's like, even if just things are just overwhelming right now, there's groups and stuff out there to try to help you through those things. And, please check on your friends, make sure they're doing okay. And, then of course, as usual, I mentioned to please be, kind when you can, and especially like right now, if somebody provides a service for you, please make sure you're saying thank you. Not that you shouldn't anyway, but it's just, let them know that you appreciate what they're doing for you. And then, of course, lastly, stay safe.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, go out there or stay in there and have the best week you possibly can. And don't forget, wiggle your toes.